So what do we do with the presentation while Kate is speaking? So you're just going to pull that out. Okay,
Perfect.
Great. So just to give you the context, I and Kate we supported Institute with this session because a lot of time people talk about LinkedIn. And I'm also told that, that why do you write so much for LinkedIn? So the question is that, what do you use social media for primarily, right? And I think in my own journey, if you look at it, I think the Facebook is almost faded. Twitter is still alive dead. So I use it often on. But I think LinkedIn is one place where we all discussed and resonated. Like Clay is master of putting his stories across all this thing. If you don't follow him on Twitter, if you don't follow him on Facebook, you're really missing something in life. I mean, I go on a run on a Sunday night while it's morning in the New York, and he's out for a marathon and run, and I see his pictures, and I just feel like I'm there. So I think the idea is also to build our stories and the stories of resilience, and these stories teach us something. And what that is something you need to figure it out. So for me, particularly, LinkedIn has been a journey of exploration. When I learn something, I feel as a teacher, I mean, the teacher in you, right? Once a teacher, always a teacher. I feel obligated to share it the world, not to build a profile, but to tell my story so that somebody somewhere in a remote town, in a remote city may learn something from that. And that's what a lot of people have been talking about it last. So we thought we'll focus on the session of how to use social media to build your social equity, not just if you are a university representative, great. But if you're also a college counselor, I used to do sessions with my children in grade 10th and grade 11th onwards, they start building up their social media profile. It's also positive digital footprint for them. So with that, I invite Kate to begin her presentation. Can we pull out the presentation?
Yes, thank you. If we can get the slides back on Zoom, that would be great. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Samir. Thanks for giving that context. That's really helpful. And as Samir mentioned, we really wanted to have this session be sort of a very practical, helpful type of almost workshop style session. So you can really get a lot out of it that you can actually apply, hopefully, to your own practices on social media. And kind of tying it back to the theme of the whole conference, which is finding purpose through counseling. We really are trying to dive in here to the importance of making the right professional connections and, staying up to date with current trends and evolutions in the field that really, in the end, help better serve students, right? I'm sorry, the slides went away again. Can we get the slides back up on Zoom? And keep them up there? That would be awesome. All right, thank you. Can we move to the next slide? And I was, I definitely feel very honored that we have Clay and Samir here. They're both really giants in the field and legends in the field, and they're both amazing at LinkedIn specifically. So I'm really happy to have them here. But first, my name is Kate Lotz, by the way. I'm the Director of Global Communications for KIC UnivAssist. And what I'm here to do is kind of set the stage and give you hopefully a broad context of the social media options if you want to use social media professionally, and also just give kind of a brief overview and broad tips on how to build your profile. So let's just quickly talk about, these are the big four that I think most people, if you're going to pick a social media platform to use professionally, it's probably going to be one of these four. And as Samir mentioned, LinkedIn is the big one. That's the most, it's easily the most professional one, where it is predominantly still used for work-based networking. Interactions are typically very professional in nature. Facebook is kind of a secondary thing. As Samir said, it's kind of, it's going a little bit out of fashion. People tend to be using it a little bit more for personal connections, but it still is very much a professional platform if you choose to use it that way. Instagram, same thing. Instagram, I would say, is even a little more casual and a little more personal, but you can choose to use it professionally. Everybody has an Instagram account, whether it's, your colleagues or businesses or schools or universities. So it's definitely a way that you can keep in touch professionally. And then Twitter, or, X, as it was recently rebranded, started as a microblogging and social networking site, but it's really used as kind of a real-time conversation, and it's more conversational in tone as well. And you can go ahead and go to the next slide. But the thing that I wanted to kind of talk about there is, there's so many platforms that you can use, and you really should just kind of think about what's the one that fits you the best. And we are going to talk about LinkedIn the most, but there are other options, and you can kind of apply this knowledge to any of them. And this slide is interesting. It's just to kind of, remind everybody that the reason, stepping back, why are you even here? Why are you even placing value in social media as something that you should be spending your time in as a professional investment? It's because of the scope of the network. It is bigger every year. It's growing and growing and growing every year. You can go to the next slide. And so it's something that will continue to be important for your role, regardless of whatever your role is professionally. And then this is a global overview, and it just kind of shows, I've circled the 3 things that I like to look at specifically here. The first one in the top row is people tend to use an average of 7.4 different social media platforms per month, which I think is interesting. And so generally, at least a couple of those are probably going to be used professionally. In the second row, it's about 60% of the total population worldwide that uses social media, and over 75% over the age of 13. So essentially, and you can go to the next slide, essentially it's pretty much everybody who's an adult, right? So that's why it is something that you should really consider investing in. And again, when you're looking at the middle column here, none of these columns specifically talk to professional use specifically. However, the middle column where I've circled some things, that is to keep up to date with news and current events, which is pretty much, it's the closest thing to professional use. And you can see that LinkedIn, the largest audience on LinkedIn, that's why it's yellow, is for that. And then also you can see Facebook and Twitter do have really sizable audiences that use those platforms for that reason as well. You can go to the next slide. Over, using social media for entertainment and things like that. And then just some tips about kind of how to craft your professional profile, how to really kind of set yourself up so that you really are in a good space for using your social media for professional use. I think it's important to think about what makes your profile professional versus what's a personal profile, and some of the things that you might want to think about include kind of setting a balance in your online identity. What should you post? What should you not post? It's developing that digital voice in terms of, if you are using this really as a professional tool, you need to think about how you're presenting yourself, right? And so I love this. If you look on the left, the screenshot I have, it actually is one screenshot of a single completely filled in, or almost completely filled in, LinkedIn profile. And so that really gives you an idea of everything that you can put in there. And the way that the algorithms tend to work is, the better you have your profiles filled in, the more you're going to get people engaging with your profile, the more the platform is going to sort of push your profile to other people. So, and I know you can't really read everything in there, but all those different categories include things like an overview, there's an about section, there's like a short bio paragraph. And the bio paragraph is not, what is your current job? You should not just be putting that in there. It should be beyond that. It should be, who are you as a professional? What are the things that are important to you in your career path, and what makes you passionate about what you do? Activity, it shows that. It shows experience, where you can list all your previous professional experience, your education, your licenses and certifications, volunteering background, your skills, recommendations. And I know that Samir is going to talk a little bit about that specifically. Honors and awards that you may have gotten, your interests. And then on the right hand, I wanted to sort of give a screenshot of this, because I think one of the sort of easiest mistakes people make on their just basically setting up their professional profile is choosing a picture. It's really important that you keep in mind that this is a picture that you should be able to be recognizable, right? So think about it in the sense of if you're meeting someone at a conference and they decide to look you up on LinkedIn later, you need to be able to be recognizable, right? They need to be able to say, oh, okay, yes, this is the person. You shouldn't have sunglasses on, you shouldn't be like super far away and so they can't even see you. It shouldn't necessarily be with your whole family or your kids or anything, right? It doesn't have to be a professional headshot, but definitely it should be something that is a professional presentation of who you are. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. And so, I think stepping back as you're building your profile and as you start to engage on social media, one of the really important things that everybody should stop and think about is to consider what are your goals and what's the reason that you're doing this, right? What would you like to get out of it? And some of the questions you should stop and ask yourself are, who is your audience? And I know that Clay and Samir are going to talk about this too, but who really are you talking to? Who are the people that you're trying to reach? Are you posting things that those people will find interesting, or are you posting things that they won't find interesting? Basic things such as even understanding your privacy settings. And I know that that's not a very exciting part of setting up a profile, but you really need to understand how the platform works, right? So if you accidentally have a privacy setting on that says that limits people from viewing your profile unless they are already connected to you, then that already is limiting how much reach and how many connections you can make. So that's definitely something that is worth the 10 minutes to stop and kind of invest in that settings and make sure you understand that. And then finally, it's really about finding your tone and what you're comfortable with saying and what kinds of things you should be posting, right? So it's important if you're going to be using social media professionally and you want to be using it to connect with other professionals, it's important to be professional, of course, but you have to also be genuinely yourself. And you have to kind of find that digital voice. You have to find that balance between who are you as a person? What makes you a fun person to talk to at a conference? Or, why do your colleagues like talking to you? And also keep it professional, right? And using photos is really important, I think, especially on really every social media platform, even more so now than it used to be. That really helps with the algorithms and with the promotions of your posts and things like that. But they should be appropriate photos and they should be effective photos. And, just keep in mind that that's something you can really use to your advantage. And just kind of as a separate side note tip, if you're thinking about all this and you're like, oh, this is really not how I use my social media. I don't want to lose all my connections, but I also don't want to necessarily stop posting all those pictures of my, my dog and my grandkids or whatever. You might want to consider setting up a separate professional account that you only use professionally versus the personal account. So you can keep all your personal connections, but you really shouldn't be mixing those audiences too much and posting too many super personal things that might kind of be over the line with what you would want professional colleagues to know about you, and what they might not want to know about you in your life also. You can go to the next slide, please. And then just as a final tip from me, and then I'm going to hand it over to Clay, it really is about building relationships and not about racking up the number of contacts that you have, right? So don't just keep hitting that, connect, follow button to any random person that you see. You should really be honing in on who are the people that who are the people that are sort of in your wider professional circle, in the sense of you want to know them, their name, and who are the people that you should know. Also think about your career trajectory and where do you want to go, and who are those people that might help you be able to get there. And then as you're engaging on social media, remember that when these things on the left, the comment, share, and react is like when you like, or when you heart, or when you celebrate, or whatever it is you're clicking on something, that's really positive engagement. And again, that's good for the algorithms. And that helps to promote your posts and promote your profile. Passive engagement the list on the right is if you just click on something, or if you just watch it and keep scrolling, or if you just hover, that stuff doesn't really help you. So make sure that you are, if you're spending the time on there in the first place, you are actually investing the time to really do the things that help your engagement. And now I'm going to hand it over to Clay to do a little bit more of a deep dive and a case study. Take it away, Clay. Oh, we can't hear you on the Zoom. Okay, there we go. Yes.
Got it. I just had to turn on the microphone. I needed my friend Samir to help me with the technical aspects.
We'll get there.
And that was great, Kate. That was a great introduction and context. And what's interesting about social media and really our profession in general is how dynamic it is. So everything Kate says is, I will say, like it goes without saying, everything Kate says is always right. But also everything Kate said there can change a little bit. Like even I'm going to pick on you a little bit, Kate, with the passive or neutral engagement as being something that's negative. Well, the algorithms are so sophisticated within something like Facebook, Insta, Twitter, that even hovering and watching and clicking, if you're getting yourself comfortable, that actually does contribute to the algorithms. The fact that you looked at something contributes, and you engaging with the platform, and you always want to have a balance in how you invest time on your phone or your laptop compared to other work. But once you feel comfortable engaging, it does affect the algorithms in terms of what you see. And even things that are, as Kate mentioned, are not as important, like clicking, watching, hovering, that does still contribute to what you see. And before I move on to some tips and a brief case study, I want to know a little bit about how you use different platforms. So Kate mentioned kind of the big four. So let's, first, I'm going to do two kind of raise of hands and about who uses it. Let's start, Kate, I think you mentioned LinkedIn as being the most widely used professional site. Correct. So how many of you currently have a LinkedIn platform, profile, sorry? Okay, so almost everyone. How many of you have a Meta? So Facebook, Insta, or now Threads would be the three major tools within that suite. How many of you have at least one of those? Okay, almost everyone. So that's fairly ubiquitous. The Facebook, the social network, was after MySpace. Did any of you have a MySpace account? I'm showing my age. Okay. And among those three, I'm curious, how many of you only use Facebook among those three? How many of you only use Insta? Okay. I want to quiz you guys about that. I'm still getting used to Insta. Like my wife, that's her favorite. She rarely uses Facebook. She loves Insta. And she criticizes me because I do a lot of cross posting. And she goes, no, you can't do that. That's against the rules. And she teaches elementary school students. So I kind of trust that she's on the cutting edge of how actual, the kids use the platform. And how many of you use Twitter? Okay, so much less so. But I would say, when Samir and I were talking, and when I was listening to you, it's sort of, things are changing quickly. And I think not all of us are a fan of the direction of the site. But I have to say, in terms of professional engagement that's unique and fulfilling, I would say Twitter, and then now as we look at Blue Sky, as we look at Threads, the micro blogging, as Kate mentioned, some of those have the most authentic and unique interactions in terms of advancing relationships. Now, it's all, for the most part, the privacy settings need to be public. You really limit that tool if it's not. So that comes with its own risk and danger. Now, and before I move on to these, I also would like to know, so going back to those big four, we're going to just raise your hand if it's your favorite. Okay. So LinkedIn, Is that where you really like to use your social media moxie, your energy? Who really likes LinkedIn as your first choice? Okay. Okay. Who really likes Instagram? Okay, I'm not surprised by that. So we have more hands. How many of you are just, you really like Facebook? That's your main site. Okay, yeah, from earlier. And then how many Twitter? Okay. Are there other sites, particularly specific to South Asian communities or international communities, that you prefer, that you want to call out? I'm curious what we're missing. No, those are the big ones. So if we're in China, if we were doing this in Korea, even Japan, you would get a lot more of that. You know, the things that are customized for those cultures and communities. I find that in South Asia, particularly India, where we are, there and the diasporas, even places like the Gulf, ASEAN, you know, Sub-Saharan Africa, those are more global. You know, and part of that is the use of English, comfort there, you know, that they use the global sites and it's not specific there. Whereas in China or, well, Naver in Korea, in Japan, there's several unique sites that you would only find if you speak Japanese, but it's more popular than Facebook. So I just wanted to mention that. The other thing I would want to mention that I think Kate hit upon, but I want to underline as well, is that as much as Facebook is kind of now considered a little bit dated, what Zuckerberg and his colleagues, I think, have done particularly well, even better than LinkedIn, is create a platform for groups. And if you're not part of, well, one big one I'm part of is International ACAC, including you need to be a member of that organization to be part of that group because it's considered so valuable. Different counseling groups, I think IC3 has some, but they are private and that allows you, even like Kate mentioned, you can always set up a professional account. But I find I haven't gone that direction because by using the groups, I can isolate professional content, still accept friendships, but the expectations are different. So folks know that I'm going to be posting about my wife and my nieces and nephews and things like that on the main channel. But on other channels, I may be more specific. So a couple of, and we'll go more quickly now. So a few guiding principles about expanding and enhancing your social network. So one is story and style trumps or are more important than strategy or statistics. Would you like to say something there?
I think two parts. Once you talked about groups, I'm part of IBDP groups, you know, the subject groups, and then another thing. And also, you know, I think the groups are a great way in Facebook to stay relevant and connected to the selected communities. If I go back to Facebook, I go to the groups or find out whose birthday it is, whom I need to wish. These are two reasons I go to Facebook. But I think authenticity is very important and relevance is very important. As long as you're authentic and you're relevant for the audience you've built. Like Kate mentioned, don't add everybody's. Like I made that mistake. So I had almost like every weekend I sit down to look at my connects and remove at least 100 connects because they're neither interested in what I'm posting, nor they're interested in, there's no relevance for them, right? So you remove those people. And second is authenticity. What you prove is story style. I mean, it's the world of storytelling. So yeah.
Oh, exactly.
My two cents. I'm authenticity and relevance.
Totally on the same page. And so a sub bullet there is don't let facts get in the way. I'm not saying lie or exaggerate, but it is a social media platform. It's meant to engage more than, you're not writing a research report, nor do you have to be comprehensive. In some ways, you might want to link. So, for example, our IC3 community produces incredible reporting, surveys, things like that. You don't have to repeat all of that, but maybe you were involved. Maybe you were or particularly interested. And for your families or student groups that you're working with or your peers, you want to share something. So you may pick out one thing. You don't have to be comprehensive. And it doesn't even have to be so stat or fact-based. You want to pick out an insight that may be actionable and that's concise to you, but that you've picked out. The other thing is it doesn't always have to be about you. Better when someone else is the subject of your story. So, and I forgot who it was, but somebody came up to me saying that, well, I don't know first, because I don't want to talk about myself. Well, actually, that's a very good instinct. You don't have to talk about yourself. Maybe you have a peer like Samir, did something incredible. And instead of it, it's really always about you. But instead, I'm going to say what an honor it was to work with Kate and Samir to produce something. And then so they become the subject line. They become what you're really talking about. So it's not about centering you. You're on the side, right? And then you're promoting a peer. And what you'll find is they start doing the same with you. And that ecosystem becomes, and the value of that ecosystem becomes compounded. Also, it's not about only you. Better when others post about you. And you may use the comment section, use the likes, things like that to create engagement. And that will help your algorithms as well. Lastly, know and engage with your audience, but leave room for their own interpretation. So you don't have to spell out everything for them. You can increase your audience and really connect with people by having things that have gaps in them, because they may then question, it may pose a question because something's not there. Or in the way, like if we're, just because we're a counseling group, we still have interest. Restaurants that you found in Hyderabad that maybe someone who's coming from another city or another country would not know about. And then those things sort to fill in. Now, another key theme is that voice is more important than volume. So you're not necessarily looking for scale. You're not necessarily looking for quantity of posts. It's more about quality. And visuals, I believe, are key. Kate mentioned you should be careful. You don't want something risque, but I find the engagement within posts that have some kind of visual, younger audiences really like video.
Just a small this thing here. Like I've got one principle here that no matter what I do with kids, I don't put kids' pictures online.
Yeah.
So even though in India, we're not governed by GDPR, we don't have any policy doing that. And in school, you have an opt-out policy. That means when they fill in the registration forms or admission forms, we say we will use your children's pictures no matter where, how, when, and you authorize one of those insurance reports, no reads, right? Filling up the form. But it's my children from my post cannot go out. So you have to be careful about that. And the second part is if the school is sharing, I'm happy to reshare because it's not my effort. So just a small bit sent here.
Yeah. And there are some folks that are very sensitive about their image. So some folks you get to know, and it's always a good rule to ask permission, especially if it's on the public. If your settings are set to public, then you should probably ask. I have a number of friends who are very, very sensitive about how they look. But what I mean by visuals, though, visuals are key.
Any image.
Is that any image will help.
Yeah. So I did 3 series posts about examination results. What I did was I wanted to show in one context a parent, in the other context a child, and in another context a teacher. So I generated AI-generated images. So AI is a great place to put. I used the prompts and created the images, and here I was. I didn't have to use anybody's picture. It's another post I did about children's increasing dependence on parents. So I live in a community. So you see in the morning, these 14 years olds, 15 years old walking ahead with straight up, and the mothers and fathers and grandparents are carrying their bag. I wanted to use that image because it has a very strong message, but I took it from the back, So sometimes you use that nobody's identity gets sort of visible from that point of view.
And then lastly, impact is more important than impressions. So it's okay to be, I like to use the word occasional. You're not necessarily doing a diary.
Right.
I'm not going to post everything that I do at IC3. Instead, be selective. And, because what I also note is some folks, every meal, they'll, take a photo of their and so sometimes when I'm at a meal with them, I'm like, well, I'm expecting them to post about that meal. And when they don't, I'm disappointed. But if they only are doing it occasionally, then I'm not disappointed. Don't be afraid to try new things either. Let's go to the next slide. And I'll go through these very quickly because I know that you're going to do a live demo, which is important. So here's a brief case study. I just wanted to show some of the metrics and some of the expectations. It's still important to measure both impact and impressions. But this is an example where I helped a group that was doing something unique at a NACAC conference. I was working with NACAC. They're guiding the way to inclusion is a conference about equity and access. And this was the first time they had a global session. So I wanted to celebrate them, but also draw attention to what they're doing. So these are friends. And it ended up getting more than 1,400 impressions. And then you can even click on view analytics and you can go deeper into who is looking at the post, who engaged with it. There were comments on it. You can create a conversation. So that's one case study I wanted to do. Of course, it is about me because I care about that issue. But in the front, it's more about my friend Vern, my friend Danielle, my friend Du Bois, who are doing the session. So it centered, you're on the side, it centered your colleagues. And then indeed, Vern often posts about things that we are doing together. So it becomes an exchange. One other thing I wanted to note before I hand it over to Samir is this book, Linked, is now pretty dated. If I remember right, it was published in the early aughts, so maybe even 99. But one key thing that has stuck with me, it really talks about how early adoption of any social platform, not just social platform, but any network, can have outsized impact or effects. And I wanted to note that too, because there are now new platforms that you may want to experiment with. Now, Blue Sky and Threads are among them, but because they're early, you can test them out, get on board more quickly, and build a followership that's broader than normal, because that's very hard to do now on Facebook or Twitter, but these new do. There you go.
So thank you. I think a very interesting point when you talked about food. I'm somebody who's always clicking pictures of food and I hardly eat. Being a vegan comes with a challenge. But what I try to do is when I pick up a picture of the food, can I talk about the chef? Can I talk about the geopolitics between the food? Can I talk about the millets? So you have to present your thought leaderships, even if that food has 5 different kinds of cuisines. Can you talk about global mindset, that how food has transferred, sort of travel, geographies and continents, and how it has become a part of your daily palate. So you can show your leadership in any way. You can talk about a kid you counseled to become a chef, right? Who was a science student, parent was struggling, to accept that. So the stories can be found here and there. So I think one thing important is that you should have an all-star profile. Now you may ask, what is an all-star profile? Image. Kate has already talked about it, and there are platforms. If you have an image which is a casual image, sort of not a good background, there are tools online with AI where you can say edit image, for LinkedIn. So it'll edit your image, taking your image from whatever background it has, remove every noise from the background and do that. So, but just have a professional. There's a banner behind. So just look at that banner. That that banner is important part. A lot of you. How many of you have LinkedIn account? You said. How many of you have banner which resonate with what you do? So you see here, the first tip, just go and put the banner. The banner can simply be about your mission statement. Banner could be simply about your contact details and some relative images, anything. But anything which remains incomplete has a negative impact on your profiling. The education you had received, the industry you work in, your current position, your location where you are, because people may want to meet the summary of what your journey as an educator has been, and skills. Can I go back to my profile there, Vaishnavi? Can you just switch it on to, I'll just sort of take them through what it looks like. So I think before this right now, I put in IC3 because I am IC3 for this month. But before that, I put something about lifelong learning with the image. And these images you can either create on Canva. You can go on Canva and say, and there is a template which is there already. The size is already there. You can just put in the images. So you look at these. I want to be in IB Circuit's International Baccalaureate School Leader. I'm Vice Principal. I'm Career Counselor. I've been told many times that remove Career Counselor now, but just doesn't speak that way. I've also done 1-year course at Columbia Business School. If many of you must have done even online course at Harvard Graduate School of Education. Just put it out there. So people from Harvard or people from all over the world will start, you will start showing up in their, this thing. CI, Cambridge Assessment International School Leader and Speaker. So now we go down a little. So you see government ID tick. I have identified myself with my Aadhaar. You can do that. Any international ID. I didn't want to put out my passport, so I used Aadhaar. So anybody who wants to reach out to me and is sort of is going to get through that this person is valid, its government ID is approved, they will not hesitate reaching out to me because there are a lot of fake profiles happening. While I was sitting there yesterday, there was a phishing happening in my phone to somebody. So now come down. So creator mode, I go back, look up a couple of LinkedIn creators, and there is a whole training on that, how to become LinkedIn creators. I want to be one, I'm not yet there, but come down. You can also highlight some of the posts. These are a couple of talks which are very close to my heart, which I've done over a period of time. So I've listed them here. If somebody wants to go and see, one can do that. I have a very simple rule. You can use it. It's a cheat sheet. It's called 1-2-3 rule. 1-2-3 rule means at least one post a week. You can reshare an article. You can write something brief with an image. You can share an event of the school, something which is meaningful. Is at least 2 comments a week, you know, and I'll also give you further cheat sheet that I use it sometimes. Very recently I tried it. That means comment doesn't mean well done. If you read somebody's done something, go back, read it well, and articulate what your thoughts and expressions are. So people will start engaging. You may also leave sometimes a statement with a question back to the writer or question back to the rest of the audience to connect with. So that's how engagement starts building up, your profile starts building up. And 3 is 3 likes, any expressions, which is no writing, just like. So 1, 2, 3 is a very simple rule. Now you see these are a couple of posts which have been doing well in last. This is one here. Come down. So this is where you can see a post. I have almost 28,483 followers. I thought before the end of the year, I want to have 30,000 followers. Come down. So this is what you say summary about. Come down. So now vice principal, my last position, continue to come down. Within the same organization, I jumped ranks. So I've mentioned that also in my timeline. Come down. Before that, I was an entrepreneur. So my position there, I was head of a program for National Geographic Channel is there. So it just goes back to your entire history and very interesting things. I hope no owners, promoters sitting here, but just for a lighter note, if you go on the LinkedIn on the side and say download and save as PDF, it is a ready-made resume for you with your picture. You don't need to create any resume. If you fill in all the details, your resume is always ready. So now all the education, I'm updating myself. I've done a courses. It just keeps going up there. Come down. Any licensing and certification. I recently did a course as PTC, Principals Training Center. So it's put up there. I did head of school, adding an MYP. So it just keeps adding. I've done safeguarding young people for international schools from TEST. It's an international organization. So all credits continue to go. Come down. My volunteering is also coming up. Can you show us all 7 voluntary experience? Can you click that part? So now you see, come down. So these favorite ones. Now recently, because I was writing so much about student agency, teacher agency, both Road Trust and 100. 100 is one of the world's leading influential organization in the sector of education. They reached out to me and they asked me, Road Trust, would you like to volunteer with us? I didn't reach out to them. LinkedIn did that. So they reached out to me. Now I do project reviews both for RISE competition, which is run by Road Trust, and 100. I do their annual review of their projects. So these opportunities will come to you if you come, this thing. And using the framework, which I learned how I was trained to evaluate, in addition to meeting about almost 200 children and almost looking at 30 educational impact projects from across the world, I also got training in how to evaluate projects. So when I went back to my school, I used some of that learning to create our own new rubric for all projects we do in school. Can we adapt our projects to those rubrics? So it's a lot of learning. Can we go back? We can move to the slides now. Also, that's okay. Just go. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference between followers and contacts?
Yes. again, as I mentioned earlier, also not all followers are engaging with me. So I continue to see, because what happens is when you post something like you've talked about analytics, maybe you're an expert, you can talk there. But if your post gets response in first 15 minutes of its posting, so you have to, this is a cheat sheet again, 3. You have to have 5 people. You can send that post as a message. Either you take a link, put it on WhatsApp if you think they're available there, and ask them to either like it, comment it, or share it, whatever, what is pop. So what happens is if people start posting and liking it in first 15 minutes to half an hour, the backend analytics start picking it up. It starts showing it up on other people's feed also. So I don't know if you wanted to talk about that or you want me to.
Well, and also just the difference between, because you're moving toward creation.
Yes.
You have a lot of people, you know, that almost 30,000, which is very, very impressive. Very few people have that many, unless you're a celebrity. But you have folks following you that aren't necessarily folks you know.
Yes.
Right.
So when people send a friend request, I see what I create. I don't accept it generally.
Okay.
I generally write a message back saying, hey, do I know you? What is this context about? You need to take out that time. And because what happens is if I'm in pursuit of, I can comfortably remove 3,000-4,000 from here right now also. That's my target. But if I keep adding people who are not engaging with my content, it also pushes me back in my content creation journey.
Got it. And about how many contacts do you have?
Maybe 1,500 to 2,000 people I would know.
Okay, so it's much more.
It's much more, and they're global. Like when I did 100 and Rise finalist, I met people in Bhutan, I met people in Cambodia, I people in US, and they all continue to add on to sort of the journey. So I may know 1,000, 1,500 people in my journey, professional journey. That's also probably maybe exaggeration, but I think less of them I don't know.
But you're much more selective. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, thank you. Can we go on to the next slide? I'll just try to rush it. I know we sort of 9 minutes. Go on to the next slide, please. Recommendations, give and take. On the left-hand side are the recommendations I received. On the right-hand side, the recommendations I've given. You can ask your colleagues, your friends, your seniors, somebody, either a reporting manager or a colleague who can write about you. I mean, a lot of time when you change jobs and, organizations aren't pursue, we won't give you a recommendation. Fine, that's fine. I have recommendations on the LinkedIn. I'll download and send it across. It's very simple. Just make it easy for you. Also like to give. So on the right-hand side are the two which I've given. Go on to the next one. I'll try to speed up. If you have any questions, I'll stay back to answer the questions. Next slide, please. Endorsements. Also, if you find people in your connection, for example, you meet Clay, you add Clay on LinkedIn, what is his specialty? Can you give me 5 specialties Clay has right now as skills? Public speaking, higher education, career counseling, right? Social media expert or social media expertise. You can go and give the skill endorsement to Clay. And what happens in return, Clay will come back and he says, see, Samir did this session with me. He might do. So it's a sort of a old barter system, but just go back and give endorsements to your colleagues who work with you. And that way they will also be sort of feel obligated or at least motivated, if not obligated, motivated to give endorsement back. Next one. There is a take skill quiz. Go up. Can you go back? You can take a skill quiz. I'm really not sort of great at quizzes, so I generally fail most quizzes, so I don't take it. But once you do the skill quiz, like say for example, if you're an Excel expert, just go and do that skill. If you're a Word expert, just go and take that skill. So if you do the skill, LinkedIn generates a recognition award, and which you can tag and people can see. The prospective employers can see that you are very skilled in XYZ skills. Come down. Next slide. So there's something very interesting. It's called SSI score, and I think I and Clay will share. It's a social selling index score. That means it tells you what your profile, how your profile has been doing, and I generally measure it every 15 days, not every day, not every week, but I do it 15 days. Go on to the next slide. So, and there are 4 components of social, selling index. First is establishing your professional brand. When you start, you should remember whom are you targeting. Can anybody speak out who are your target audience as a counselor? How many of your counselors here? How many are non-counselors here? Okay, so one counselor and one non-counselor. So any counselor who can say, who are your audience? Yes. Excellent. Theo. Who else? Yes. Prospective universities. Excellent. Excellent. Next. Who else? Okay, alumni, you mean? The ones who've graduated? Excellent. That's a good. Next. Anyone else? Okay, so you're a career counselor and people and culture lead. Okay, okay, that's a good one. I use a lot of job posting for my organization. For every job posting, I get almost 150 resumes. So only 15 are valid, but I still get the response. Anybody else? Hired professionals, influencers who create content on career counseling, right? Clay does great work on career counseling and higher education. Kala does great work. Saga does great work. So you can find influencers whom you would like to follow. You also should follow, I mean, when you said university, and my assumption is you're saying university is LinkedIn profile. That's different from the people who are leading that wing of, international outreach. So have that differentiation in mind. Non-counselors, how many of you there? Okay, anyone who would like to shout out, what is your audience? Yes. Okay, subject. Yes. Excellent. So, yes. Yeah. I mean, you'll be surprised to know this time when I sat on nursery interactions with parents, at least 50% of them said they looked up the head of the school and me on LinkedIn. And that's why when I asked why XYZ school, and they said, we looked both of you up and you're pretty active in education domain and blah, 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 blah. So parents, even before choosing school, are going and looking at who's the head of the school, who's the counselor here, right? The second part is find the right people. We've talked about it enough, so I won't delve deeper. Don't get somebody who's in tech, has nothing to do with education, has never engaged on education website, but just got interested. He might be a novice like you who's trying to build up a community. Engage with insights. We've talked about it, and I'll give you a cheat sheet there as well, that when people write, for example, I see a lot of IC3 photographs going on. Photographs, best place is Instagram or Facebook. LinkedIn is not the best. For example, if I meet TG and I share with pet parents and so we can talk about how pet grooming and veterinary sciences can be the next big thing in the world. So when we meet, we have to talk in the context. So it doesn't have to look like a Facebook and an Instagram account. Build relationships. And as I said, like 100 and Rise Foundation and Roots Trust wrote back to me to volunteer for them. And it was an honor, So sometimes I get opportunities for people to come and say, hey, could you speak on this platform? Recently, India Today invited me to speak on their platform, or through LinkedIn. Next. This is what your SSI score looks like. This is a year old. I must tell you, I'm 2% off, and because I'm competing with Clay right now. So this exactly tells you where you are in your journey. So you see, my professional brand is fairly high right now, but finding the right people, I told you in the beginning, 3,000-4,000 people are redundant in my network. It clearly seems visible here. I engage fairly well with the insights, and I love to build relationships. So it's very, very clearly shown on my SSI, this thing. Next. No, the next one. We might just, next one. Okay. Yes, you'd like to talk about that.
Oh, well, I'm actually stunned.
Next time when you come, I'll be more than you.
I'm actually stunned I'm higher than you. But what I wanted to point out, because in listening to LinkedIn very differently, you're a content creator where I use, frankly, and whereas you said 1,500 to 2,000 contacts, but 30,000 followers. I don't even know how many followers I have. I think it's much less, but I have almost 10,000 contacts, because if you contact me and we have mutual connections, I will usually accept.
Yes.
And because I want you in my database, I want to be able, it's very useful to me that if I I'm visiting indoor or now for the first time. I'll put in that as a keyword, and I want to see all my contacts there in a row. And I will be more selective when I endorse folks, when I write recommendations. So therefore, I get a lot of calls when people are hiring, and they say, "I see you're connected with Samir," and then I can endorse Samir. There's some folks that I will just be honest and say, "Actually, we met once," or "I actually don't know them, but we connected because of mutual friends."
That's right.
And I've liked their content, but I can't endorse, and that's fair. But that's why my relationship score is so much
Higher.
yours was high, but I'm actually at the top because I use the messaging feature of a lot when I reach out to potential panelists, things like that. So that's why you're seeing that. I'm actually not better. I shouldn't be higher than Samir. It's kind of like the SAT, though. You have to take it with a grain of salt.
No, but he's very right. You saw, I told you there were 3,000 to 4,000 redundant contacts who do not engage with my post, and that brings my score down. It's by the end of it's all about standardized testing, right? Of course.
Yeah.
Next one, please. We'll just quickly take you through this. I know. Next one, next slide, please. Next 3 minutes, we'll run the slides and then we're happy to take questions quickly. Next slide, please. Okay. We can simply go to Google, enter SSI LinkedIn score, click on the first search result. If you logged on to LinkedIn already, simply say, get your score. And on LinkedIn, there is a very interesting course. It's called How to Build Your LinkedIn Profile. So you can do that course. You don't need me and Clay for that matter. We can just come some other tips. Next one. What do I post? This is what I post. You can take an image and I'm happy to chat about it. I don't want to dwell deeper. Sometimes I just simply write about the book I read. Sometimes I talk about the sustainability. Like today, you go back and you see this time in IC3, we've not just used a single plastic bottle. At least IC3 is not endorsed. Talk about it. Sustainability is the way. The conferences have to become sustainable. We chose to go at least 1 meal non-vegetarian. That is sustainability. Talk about that. Posts can also be open-ended and encourage audience to reply in comments. So I try to experiment with that. There is no rule, like you said, just don't go by rule book. Try to experiment with your own style. Next. This is my interesting and favorite topic. This is what you can post. But for me, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I work the best. The worst are the Sundays. When I post, nothing works on Sundays. So people Monday morning can be great when people are getting back to work, but generally people are checking their emails and on LinkedIn. But Tuesday, everybody settles down on the week and they sort of start exploring what's happening in the professional field. And these are the times. For me, Tuesdays and Thursdays always work. Saturdays, Sundays are the worst for me. Next. Who do I post for? So my counselors, hired professionals, university school leaders, sometimes communities like IC3, International ACAC, influencers, students, and alumni, and also tag them sometime. When the post is about counseling, I'm happy to tag International ACAC because there's some learning for them and some learning for me. Can we go on to the next slide, please? For example, when you click, these are a couple of signs. The inside sign when you read something has the highest points. But if there's nothing written, if say somebody has got a LinkedIn match of being so, and you put inside, there is no correlation. But if somebody writes a long post on IC3 conference, then there is an insight you're drawing from here. So try to use that. Just want to mention time, be regular. Your audience is going to look out for you. So remember, when you post on the same time, your audience has an anticipation and they like it. Generally, avoid links which take away from. If you have to post a link, you see my post of IC3, I written link in the comment section below. So then I go in the comment and post there. LinkedIn doesn't like that you navigate in your post takes people away from LinkedIn on a third party this thing. So try avoiding that. Hashtags, international education, career counselor, these some hashtags you can use. You can tag target audience, you can tag me, you can tag Clay. Include an image with each post. He's talked about it. Images increase contacts, but you can also do short videos, the increase reach. And no video should be more than 3 minutes. I mean, that's the max. 30 seconds, 45 seconds, quick videos are nice. For example, if some of your counselors, you can start every Monday, you will give one tip of your career in a video form. People will consume more video than English would be reading. So the 30-second tip today's tip is about meeting parents and blah, blah, blah. The second will be about meeting students, first meeting, third is about staff. So there is an anticipation you're building for other fresh counselors like her who joined, and they would keep coming back to sort of do that. Next, please. This is one of the posts, my friend, dear friend Sagar Bahadur. If you look at it, it's a casual picture, but he's talking about listening to the calling everyone has, and I'm ready for my next chapter. It has been incredible, including I and Sagar bounce off a lot of ideas around this. So see, he's talking about his exit from present organization and announcing his move on. But the way he's done it is phenomenal. And look at 696 people have liked, commented, 262 people commented, 696 engaged, and there are almost 25,000 footprints on this post. I remember one post which Sagar did, which is my favorite post. He walked up on a trek with a dog and the lessons he learned from the dog while walking up. I look up at that post. So even though it is about dog and Sagar's relationship of that 3 hours trek, but he's talking about what he learned from dog, which he applies in his real life. Next, please. You can also use humor sometime, right? This is ghostwriter putting up, the personality of the client and how you can also get ghostwriters, by the way. But anyways, so how AI tools make you look like. So you can do a funny post, but there's a message around. And the image is really, really one of my favorite images. How social media enable you to project yourself how you want to be seen. Not the best thing, but next one. You see, almost 414 people have liked and all. So you can also use another thing. I'm following David McLean. He does exceptionally good infographics, which are none of them are created by him, right? But he used infographics to sum up what he's learned. Look at 1,621 people, 88 comments, 384 reposts. 384 people have gone and reposted it again. And there was some 50,000 insane amount of footprints. So it's not created that, it's from a source, but he's used that to amplify his voice. Next one. This is also my favorite one. So, if you're a management expert or you like management, you can do this. It's again an infographic, strategy theory versus strategy practice. How does it look like in the real world? So a couple of tips here. Next, please. Thank you. These are our QR codes. You can scan and follow us. But happy to answer any questions that you may have. And one extremely big cheat sheet. If there's a long article by Harvard Business School, which you want to read and don't have time for, copy it, go to the ChatGPT. Can you summarize this with me? Summarize it, write your little comment on that, and run it past ChatGPT or maybe QI, a Quillbot who can refine it further. Post it. 5-minute job, right? So thank you. Any questions are welcome.
I know we've gone over. You will have the slides, but we can stay.
Yes, we can stay.
We don't want to keep you from the next session or from coffee, but Samir and I can stay and we can engage with the audience here. But we don't want you to feel obligated. You won't be impolite if you just need to go. But we'll take questions.
Yes.
And
yes.
I also want to, if you guys, can you hear me? Can you still hear me? Okay, great. I also just wanted to remind everybody to please fill out the feedback forms.
Yes.
So
can you just put Kate on the slide so that she can also answer? Just the Kate. We don't need us there. Yes. First AG and then you, sir. Yes, it is always good. And Clay, you would like to take that? You've talked about it. For example, she's sending a friend request to me and it pops up, would you like to write a message? It's always good to write a message because you're establishing a personal connect. If you see what I do generally is I say here, I've been engaging with your post for a period of time so that he can go back and look at how engaged. I'm interested in the work you're doing. It'll be wonderful to connect with you and learn from you.
Yeah, and so a lot of people, sometimes it can be even simpler. So the best time to gain new connections is after an event like this. So for example, I'll have cards or the hashtags, and I'll just simply write, it was great to see you at IC3, maybe make one point about a conversation we have if you remember it. You don't have to do that, but that will, to me, guarantee that that you're accepting it.
That's right. Yes. Sorry, Paige, did I answer your question? 1, 2, 3. No. Comments a week. Target. Thank you. Yes.
I have a generic question, sir. So like you are in the leadership team of an organization and you yourself have a lot of followers. So how do you bifurcate and how many thought processes are of your individual own and do they get in, are they in conflict with the organization sometimes, and how do you navigate that?
It's a good question. We've had a challenge where one particular colleague of ours across 4 campuses posted something which was politically offensive. You cannot do that. You're in a professional space. Make sure that none of you that you put online is in conflict with what organization stands for. And most organizations have a digital media policy, social media policy. If you don't have one, create one for your employees and make it a part of your induction process. I generally don't post anything which is in conflict with my organization.
I would also say that a safe default, unless your role specifically mentions social media, it's good to have up front that you're speaking for yourself.
Yes.
Now, at the same time, you are promoting, if you have a role within an organization, you're still representing them, but it's more about affiliation. And sometimes you gain credibility by having that distance, but you're still that glow or that halo still helps.
Is this a coffee time or the next session? Oh, sorry, Pavak. I see you standing. Is this for the next session?
Sorry, Mr. Samir, if you can just give me 1 minute. If
Sure.
you can just allow.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Samir, I have a straight question to you. You are a school leader. You're totally packed with daily challenges. How you'll go ahead and write such a beautiful post?
I'm just passionate about what I want to share. I have a lot of people make connections, but it's generally I like to share because I used to do as a child journaling a lot. So I've stopped that, and social media is my digital journal now. I'm
So
just
it's-
passionate.
So it's the diary writing for you.
It's diary writing for me. What I learned, I want to share it with the world. If somebody learns from this,
Yeah.
great.
You're doing great job. Keep this up.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, last question. I would not do that because it sounds like a self-promotion. If a kid wants to go on the LinkedIn profile and do it for me, it's fine. I will not do that. I discourage children from posting anything about me unless they graduated, their alumni, they want to write their 5-year-old memory. I mean, in school child, I wouldn't post a child's image there out because I don't have parents' consent. How do school take it? This is my personal perspective, but I don't know what the context is complete. So maybe I can have one-on-one discussion. I mean, it just sounds to me like a self-promotion, sorry, but I'm just saying, why would you do that? Because for me, no, I mean, I've used, for example, children's notes from this is one of the posts I did. I was clearing up my cupboard and I got about 6-7 posts from different children who are in different points of time, and they're all in university. Some of them even have children. So I take the image, but I remove their names.
Mhm.
I don't want them to be seen as, it's not about, it's about them, but I have not their consent. I don't know where they are. So I use that image, but I did not put their names out. But I won't use a child's video or image. If I'm meeting an alumni 10 years later who's doing great and we met out for a lunch, take a picture, write about that boy, perfectly fine. He's an adult now. Yeah, sure. The child can go and post, that's fine. Okay. How much can you read at a go on a phone? I would say less than 75 words for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that idea of anonymizing,
Yes.
when I said that don't let facts get in the way of a good story, is that you can make composites, and things like that.
That's
Folks
right.
don't have to know, and that's the way not to get into privacy and things like that. Well,
Like in the beginning, you mentioned about you helping students build their profile in high school.
I don't help students build profile. They build their own profile. They come to me for conversations.
Or that
I work as a vice principal in Shiv School, Gurgaon. I help them build LinkedIn. Okay. Yes. So I reached out to LinkedIn. I do this session with them for children. Why should they have LinkedIn account? I also do case study of 2018 Harvard.
Yeah.
Just look up online. Sorry, I just have our next speakers here, so we can stand out and talk to that.
Thank you, everyone, and thanks, Kate, for putting this together.